So this final and most intense form of despair, again, is one of defiance, a despair that is defiant despair. How does he characterize this despair? On page 102, about the middle of the page, no, he wants to spite or defy all existence and be himself with it. That is the self-assertion. I want to be myself, my miserable, suffering self. Take it along with him, almost flying in the face of his agony. Have hope in the possibility of help, especially on the strength of the absurd, that for God everything is possible, that absurd thought that for God everything is possible, yet which is the only chance of possibility, space and air? No, that he will not. I'd ask help of any other? No, that for all the world he will not do. If it came to that, he would rather be himself with all the torments of hell than ask for help. That is this stubborn, spiteful form of despair. This is the demonic form of despair. I don't want any help. I don't want to be made better. How do we get ourselves in this sort of situation? And remember, Kierkegaard is really claiming that this is a form of human experience that we all have to go through in order to get out of despair eventually. He says in the first full paragraph on page 103, but the more consciousness there is in such a sufferer who wants in despair to be himself, the more the despair intensifies and becomes the demonic, more like the devil's despair. It usually begins like this: a self which in despair wants to be himself, that is, suffers some kind of pain which cannot be removed or separated from his concrete self, that something really bad happens. Or maybe you do something really bad. Maybe that's more what Kierkegaard's getting at. But some kind of pain which cannot be removed or separated from his concrete self. So not like a toothache, which is a pain that can be removed, or a bad day, or a little depression, or a bad spell, which can be removed. No, something happens, or you do something, or whatever it is, that becomes existential, part of your existence, part of your very being. He then heaps upon this torment all his passion, which then becomes a demonic rage. If it should now happen that God in heaven and all the angels were to offer him to be rid of this torment, no, he does not want that. Now it is too late. Once he would gladly have given everything to be rid of this agony, but he was kept waiting, and now all that's past. He prefers to rage against everything and be the one whom the whole world, all existence, has wronged, the one for whom it is especially important to ensure that he has his agony on hand, so that no one will take it from him. Wow. What is he describing? Can we relate to this? Something happens to the self, which is so devastating that it's not like something external. It's something internal. It's part of you. And it defines your misery and your despair as a self, and you despair over it. Yet, you wouldn't change it for the world. That is, I think Kierkegaard is getting at something here. I really do. And that is that suffering and pain in our lives, if we look back upon it, are very near and dear to us. Not that we voluntarily want to suffer. No, I don't believe that. But that once we have suffered, once bad things happen, or when we do bad things, these things are very definitive of who we are. So that if we didn't have our suffering, what would we have? If I was not the person defined by my own suffering and pain and mistakes and all those things, if those things were to be wiped away, what would I have left, one would ask. And what is this wiping away anyway? I mean, we can certainly see Kierkegaard's Christianity becoming more and more obvious in the sense that what is the kind of God that he's imagining we're in the presence of? What does this God want from us? What does he expect of us? You could say that he expects us to be who we are. That is, this is the task, to be the self that we are and not some other self. But what does it entail, being the self that we are? Well, it entails, I would say, accepting God's love. Isn't that got to be part of what he's talking about? His forgiveness. And letting go of that suffering, letting go of all those things that define us as the individuals, seemingly define us as the individuals we are. And so, how do we feel about that, God? How do we feel about that situation? Kierkegaard ends this section, part 1, with a very striking simile. What is it like? If we could read the whole thing, I think it's amazing. It starts on the bottom of page 104.